Hello and welcome to episode 1 of PAGE CHEWING Comics and Manga. Thank you for joining me today. It is the first episode. I'm very excited to get this series kicked off. It's something I've been wanting to do for a very long time, and I'm finally doing it. So it's nice to be able to sit in front of the microphone and finally get this new podcast off the ground. So with this being the first episode, I should probably tell you all what to expect from this podcast. So first, I'll have a weekly episode discussing some new comics, or at least new to me, that I'm already reading or starting to read. It won't always be a new comic, as I'll explain later, but it'll be a recently released comic, or something that's starting with a new creative team, like an existing series that's starting with a new creative team that I can jump on a new arc, or kind of a fresh start for that series. I haven't been keeping up with comics for the last few years, so I'm just getting back into the hobby. And I'm trying to find my way I'm trying to find my way through and new titles that I may enjoy. I've never been a big fan of superhero books. They just aren't my thing. Nothing wrong with them if you're into that. I'm happy for you. They're just typically not what I enjoy reading. Every once in a while, there'll be a creative team on a superhero book that I will give a shot to, but it doesn't happen too often. So when I do choose a couple of books, it'll usually be like an indie book, an independent book, or something that's a little off the beaten path, not so much superhero related. So if you're into those kind of books, then I hope you come along the journey with me. When I do try these new books weekly, I'll give my brief thoughts. I'll try to leave it a spoiler, I'll try not to spoil too many things, but I will talk about what happens in the book. So just a heads up. And I'll also announce whether I'll be continuing the series or not. 5 books that I'll be talking about that I picked up at the local comic book shop. I went over there and tried to find new number ones that I can jump onto, or, like I said, an existing series that's off to a new start. But as I'll explain later, it didn't work out the way I thought it would. But of course, if there's any new books that you are enjoying or you'd like to, ask me to think I might be into, I'm open to suggestions, of course. In addition to the weekly episodes that we'll post on Sundays, I'll also be uploading some group discussions for other books or collections that we've already recorded on YouTube. One example is that we're doing a group read for Berserk, and I'll be uploading those discussions starting with the first episode. I'll also be uploading stuff, discussions for things like Watchmen, V for Vendetta, and Uzumaki. We have some upcoming group reads planned on our forums that I'll talk about a little bit later over on pagechewing.com. But we have some other reads planned for 30 Days of Night and the Alan Moore run on Swamp Thing. So we have those discussions planned. I'll also be reading older runs and have episodes discussing them, on an episode-by-episode basis with a guest if I can find one. It would be great if some of you read along with me. Maybe we can come up with some kind of system to interact on those ones, on existing ones. A couple of books I'd like to reread are things like Crossed. That would be a fun discussion. Things like Nameless by Grant Morrison, things like that. I'd also like to go back and reread some of my favorite runs like Punisher Max, or some other books like famous runs like the Daredevil run by the author that I can't think of right now by Bendis. I like to do that. I've never read that run, so things like that. I like to read those and have those sprinkled in as well with the weekly Sunday episodes. So I know it's a lot to take in right now, so just bear with me. Before I get into this week's books, I want to mention that if you'd like to interact with me or with our community, visit the pagechewing.com website and visit our forums or join our forums. We have a great little community there, and we discuss literature, gaming, or just generally shooting the shit. So I'd like to invite you if you're not already there. So this week, like I mentioned, I went by the local comic book shop. My intention was to grab new number ones, but it didn't work out too well, the way I planned anyway. So let's get into the first book. The first book is Star Wars Empire, and I'm not the biggest Star Wars fan, I have to admit. I've kind of sort of into the series. I did read the Darth Vader, the Sith Lord series. I think it was a three trades, and I really enjoyed that. I thought that had a good grief component to it, and I'm a sucker for grief, but I did enjoy that run quite a bit, more than I thought I would. So it was a fun. It kind of opened my eyes because I'm more of the I'm a big fan of Rogue One. It's probably my favorite Star Wars movie, and so that Vader book really hit a mark for me. So when I saw Star Wars Empire, the cover just jumped out at me. I mean, I had to give it a try. That cover is just stunning. It's a bunch of stormtroopers, and the tagline is, "What would you do if the Empire took over?" I love these darker stories. I love the Empire. I love that kind of, Vader and that aspect of it. That's much more interesting to me. So I had to pick it up. So for this one's written by Jody Hauser. Jethro Morales is on the art, and Dee Cunniffe, I hope I'm not mispronouncing Dee's name, on colors. So the Galactic Empire is battling the rebellion and seizing control of businesses for military purposes. So they're starting to just kind of commandeer businesses, take them over for the war effort. And we meet Rilo Greneth, who is the son of one of the owners of these businesses that the Empire has commandeered. So he's assigned with helping the Empire do some testing, and he's a bit of a fish out of water. He doesn't quite fit in with the other stormtroopers. He's a little, awkward, and he's not a military person, but he's thrown into this situation where he sticks out like a sore thumb. No, he doesn't fit in. So after seeing something he shouldn't, he finds himself in trouble. He's presented as someone who is out of their depth, but there seems to be something more to him. I'm not quite sure that he is as, oh gosh, gee golly, as he is presented to be. There seems more to me to his character. So I'm going into this one fresh. The art style isn't something I would normally be drawn to. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just has more of a cartoon style to it that overall it was fine. But I am curious what direction this book goes. With Rilo, he's presented, like I said, he's presented as someone who's out of his element, but and there may be something more to this character in the lore that I'm just not familiar with. I don't know a whole lot about the Star Wars lore, but you do get some indications that he has some kind of plan, that it's not just he's not seeing things on accident. It seems like it's maybe deliberate, but either way, it held my attention long enough. And will I be continuing? Yes, I will be continuing with this series. I'll be picking up issue 2 and seeing where it goes. I'm curious about it. Now, the second book that I picked up is World Tree, and it is written by James Tinian, art by Fernando Blanco, and colors by Jordi Belair. Now, Jordi and James Tinian are two names that I've been following for a long time. In this book, we are introduced to World Tree. It's something that was created in the late 90s and was intentionally hidden because it was a danger, but now it seems to be spreading. The creators may or may not be the only hope of stopping it, so they're gathering back together to try and these creators that back in the 90s, they created this, it seems like a digital virus of some kind, and they are coming back around to this uneasy alliance to stop whatever World Tree is. So it is a danger, and they may be our only hope. Gibson Lane is using his phone and images, or a signal from it, to stun people and just go on like a killing spree. Whatever this is it's almost like I said, it's almost like a digital virus, and he's using this character Gibson is using this to just randomly kill people. He goes on like a murdering spree. So his brother Ellison tries to help him after his brother Gibson gets caught, and he is going to try to help him, but it doesn't quite work out the way that we plan, or the way that Ellison plans. When he tries to help him, there's a woman who seems to be anti-clothing. that she likes to be free. She steps in to stop him from helping his brother. That doesn't work out too well. This virus is capable of spreading, and if the wrong people are able to get their hands on it, then they can re-engineer it, make it even more powerful, and make it even more of a danger. There were a few themes in this book. One of them was a couple of characters are discussing what used to shock them years ago, what used to be shocking to them back then, maybe not even that long ago, but what used to be shocking to them then is almost like the norm now, and how that bar keeps raising on what used to be shocking is now just another day on the internet. So I thought that was interesting that that bar keeps rising as we keep getting desensitized to violence or to mayhem or whatever it may be. I thought that was interesting that that bar keeps rising, and where does it stop? Like where does that bar stop rising, and where are we headed as a group? So I did think that was interesting. What does that do to us? How does that change our minds? That sort of thing. The art was fine. It wasn't very detailed. It was kind of just there. It was fine with me. It wasn't something, like I said, I'm normally drawn to. But will I be continuing the series? Yes, I will be continuing. Partly because I already picked up issue 2 when I was at the comic book store. I noticed that the second issue is there, and I picked up both just because James Tynion. I thought I can't really go wrong, right? So I had to give it at least two issues and see kind of where it goes. And plus the covers are stunning on these two, just really pop out. And I do like the ideas behind it. I think it has some potential to be a very interesting series. So I'll be continuing with this one. I do want to know more. I enjoyed it enough to continue. Even if I hadn't picked up issue 2, I would have been continuing anyway. So it worked out pretty good. The next book that I picked up this week was The Ambassadors #1 by Mark Millar, and Frank Quitely is the artist, with letters by Clean Robbins. I hope I'm not mispronouncing any of those names. I've always been a big fan of Frank Quitely's work. I love his artwork. I love it almost looks like it shakes, like it vibrates on the page. I'm not sure how he does that, but I've always been a fan. I've read some books that he's done the art for that I just, even though I didn't really enjoy the book, I just wanted it for the artwork because I just love his style. I think it's wonderful. Mark Millar is a little hit and miss for me. I don't really have a very strong opinion either way. It's just one of those things where I'm not anti. I have to be interested in the idea behind the book to give it a shot. Speaking of, the cover for The Ambassador is really striking. And it's funny because it's just a white cover with the ambassadors in red on top. And that's all it has, just a blank white cover. And sometimes less is more. So it just caught my eye, and it really stuck out on the rack there in the bookstore. So I just thought, why not? I'll give it a shot. Now, I didn't realize that I believe this run is a 6-issue run. I think it's already over. I think the 6th book is either out now or about to be released. So I'll probably pick up the collected, the trade for this whenever it comes out. So instead of picking up the individual issues, I'll probably just collect it in the trade. And I may have just spoiled what I thought of it, but let's get into it anyway. Like I said, and plus the cover is a very thick paper stock. It's like almost like construction paper, very thick, very sturdy, and I love that kind of thing. That presentation goes a long way. It just feels good in your hand, and you feel better about dropping $4 on a single issue. So in this one, we find out about Operation Blue Sky, where governments in the 50s and 60s were on an arms race to engineer a superhero, their own superhero. When they weren't able to do it, they weren't able to engineer superheroes like getting to the moon, who can get to the moon first kind of thing. And when they weren't able to do it, they created a propaganda campaign where they used Hollywood to create a fake superhero. So they would do this to give the idea that we have one, but we didn't really have a superhero. So I thought that was interesting. I love that kind of thing. I love when governments use propaganda for things, whether it's superheroes or whatever it may be. I love those kind of ideas of how governments can twist the truth, and twisting superheroes into that, I think, is very, very fascinating to me. When we also meet We also find out that someone had a breakthrough and they were able to create these superheroes. We meet a character called Chun Li Chung, but this person isn't interested in money or power. Instead, she's going to choose 6 people to get these powers. I think she even references herself as like the Willy Wonka of, who's going to get the golden tickets, right? Who's going to win this contest? And she's not picking people based on their political power or their wealth or their social standing. She's picking people on how, what kind of person are they, that kind of thing. At least that's what she's stating in the beginning. So she's going to choose, and everyone's on pins and needles because she has this ability to give these powers out, and she also has powers. And for her to have that ability is scary, obviously, to a lot of these governments, and that the fact that she's not interested in control or power or standing herself makes her even more dangerous for them, because they can't really get to her. They can't bribe her. They can't, they can't entice her with other things. She's on her own little quest. And I think that's really interesting. I loved the artwork. Like I said, I enjoyed basically cover to cover on this one. So I already spoiled this one, but will I be continuing this book? It's an emphatic yes, I will be continuing. Like I said, I'll be picking up the trade when it's available. And I don't think it may be very long. I believe these come out a lot quicker than they used to. Now, the next one I picked up, I have 2 more. The next one is called Haunt You to the End, and it's a book. Let me grab it from my stack here. This one is written by Ryan Cady, art by Andrea Muti. Sorry, Andrea, if I'm mispronouncing your name. And also Frank Kitsovic. I'm probably mispronouncing that too. I'm sorry for the mispronunciations. I can be bad with names. So this one I picked up because it had like a horror spin on it. So I thought, well, I'll give this one a try. This one is issue 1. It's a 5-issue miniseries. The idea behind this one is because of global warming, by the year 2050, the Earth is growing less and less less habitable. God damn it. It's less livable, okay? By the day, Matt Park is asked to document a trip to an island that will be gone in a few days as a result of global warming. It's labeled as like the most haunted place on the planet. On their trip to this island, of course, bad things happen, and the typical things you would expect to happen on this kind of story. And so as they would, these bad things happen, and after introducing us to the characters that are on the trip, the first issue ends with the crew on the island. There are some supernatural horror elements to this one. It wasn't a whole lot here. I couldn't really get into the characters. I couldn't really get into the story. And it is more of a supernatural horror story for this one. And I think supernatural horror is really tough to pull off, at least for me, because especially in this format, because a lot of it is based on timing. The scares and the spine tingling moments that you want to feel when you're reading this kind of story. Something about it was the timing just didn't quite work for me, because it's hard to have that kind of story in this kind of format and really be effective. I think other types of horror are much more effective, for me anyway. So it's tough because you can't really build tension when you can't control timing. In a movie, you can control the timing of when things happen. You can control the soundtrack. You can control the visuals. You can control all those things. It's much like comedy. Comedy is a lot of timing. A lot of it is timing. And it's hard to work supernatural horror into this format. So it's always tough. It's always been tough for me to get into it. For this one, will I be continuing this one? No, sadly, I will not be continuing with issue 2. Actually, I think this one might be close to ending already too. I just saw issue 1 on the shelf and I picked it up. So unfortunately, I won't be continuing this one, but I will be picking something else up to fill that spot. So like I said, I'm open to suggestions. So the 5th and final book I picked up this week is Void Rivals #1. Again, I was looking for new #1s, looking on the shelf, and I saw Robert Kirkman's name. I thought, sure, why not? I'll give this one a shot. The cover is a nice cover. I like the space background on the cover. I didn't know anything about this book. I just saw the cover and the title and the creative team. So this one we meet Durak and Solila, who have both crash landed on a planetoid during a war, like a conflict. They were enemies but have to work together to survive. When they try to find a solution and try to get off the planet, they discover something they didn't expect. I didn't expect it either. I don't want to spoil the surprise for those who haven't read it, because it's not on the Image website. I didn't see it anywhere else that you can just be aware of it before you go into the book. So I don't want to spoil what's happening or what they find and what kind of crossover this is. But I was very surprised. It's not what I expected at all. So because it's not on the website, I won't spoil it for anyone. But unfortunately, the other elements that are brought into this one just didn't do it for me. It's not something that I see myself really enjoying too much. I did enjoy the artwork. I did enjoy the rest of the story, and I did like there was another reveal towards the end of the book, or actually the last page of the book, that I thought was really neat. I thought, because these two characters crash land, they're in this conflict, and they obviously hate each other just because of who they are, and they're both wearing masks. So when they really discover some things later in the book, I'm trying to be vague, they discover some things about what's really happening that is a surprise that I thought was really neat. I think it might be something interesting. It's one that I'll keep my eye on, but will I be continuing? Sadly, no, I will not be continuing this one either. The other elements that are brought in just don't interest me. It's not something I really care for. I'll be keeping my eye on it though, and I'll be seeing if how the other reviews look to decide if I'll hop back into it eventually. But for right now, I think I'll fill that slot with something new to see if I can find something I enjoy more. So those are the 5 books. I have 3 that I'm going to continue, 2 that I won't be continuing. So not too bad. I mean, going in blind, just picking up a couple of books, and I had wanted to pick up new releases as what my plan was, like new releases of number ones, to jump on something new to kind of, people who are looking for that kind of content or who are want to hear about the new books that are coming out this week. But I should have done more homework to find out, other runs that are starting with new creative teams, even like a superhero book. I wouldn't mind jumping on a new run for a new book, just to check it out, just to give it a shot. And a lot of these books that I found were older number ones that are already almost done. They were released a month or 2 ago or 3 ago. So that's kind of a bummer. I'm going to try and be better about finding new number ones each week, or at least new runs that are starting, like I said. So if you have any suggestions, I'm all ears. Like I said, you can visit pagechewing.com. There's a blog on the front page, and there's also another forums that you can join our forums that we have more in-depth discussions. Really, really, really great community there. So if you'd like to interact or toss ideas or feedback my way, I'd love to hear about it. So that's it for this week. Thank you for joining me on this first episode. I'm very excited to finally get this going. I'm not sure. Hopefully the first episode is okay, but it's, the audio only thing is something that I'm getting used to. So I really enjoy all of you stopping by to visit with me this week. Let me know what you think of these books if you have read them, and yeah, I'd love to hear from you if you have any interest in talking about them, or if you have any suggestions. I'm very excited to get some older runs read that I've been wanting to read. So those would be, like I said, those would be special episodes. Lots of exciting stuff happening. There's something really comforting to me about reading comic books, reading manga, reading graphic novels, whatever you want to call them. There's something very comforting in reading these types of books. It's something that I really enjoy. I love the art form. I love the format. There's just so many great stories out there that are being told, and I'm really excited to get back into it and be talking about it, hopefully with some of you. So until next time, thank you very much. Keep your eyes peeled for Berserk. That first discussion will be posted here shortly. And it's a new podcast, so it'll hopefully be on most of the platforms. But if there's a platform you would like to see it on, please let me know if I forget one, and I'll try and get it on there. So like I said, until next time, we will talk to you all very soon. Hope you have a great week and happy reading.